everybody, my name is Chef Reid and I'm here with Loft Eats. I'm going to show you how to make a pretty simple dish tonight called chicken Milanese. I chose this dish because I personally love it. It's a very simple dish. It's not a beginner level kind of dish, but a little bit higher. So hopefully from this video, you're gonna learn a couple simple techniques that you can apply to this dish and also other dishes. So I'm gonna teach you today how to make this dish. And what we're gonna do, chicken Milanese is basically a pounded out chicken breast that is breaded and pan fried. It's typically served with some kind of salad tossed with a light vinaigrette. Different variations of it are made. People will serve it with risotto or a pasta. And there's also a lot of different variations of it. Like the Germans have their version, which they call schnitzel, which is kind of the same concept, yet it's pork instead of chicken. It gets its name Milanese because there is Parmesan cheese in our breadcrumbs. So the first thing I want to show you is how to clean the chicken properly. So what we have to do is make sure we remove any excess fat, cartilage, anything like that you see on the chicken. Basically, when you look at it, anything you don't want to eat, cut it off. So I got some chicken breasts here. These are pretty big. You can really do this with any size chicken you'd like. You could do this like chicken tenders if that was something you'd like. But these are pretty big breasts. If you could get a little bit smaller, that would be more proportionate to what you'd see like in a restaurant or something. But you know, you're making it at home. And actually there's an Italian nickname for this dish. I'm not gonna try and say it in Italian, but they call it the elephant's ear because once you clean the chicken and pound it out and fry it, sometimes it's the size of the plate. So what I'm doing here is just removing, kind of flipping it over and taking a look at it first, seeing if there's anything that looks unattractive. So I'm gonna cut off any extra little pieces of fat here. These are boneless, skinless breasts, so there's not much on them anyways. Sometimes they have a little more stuff underneath, but these look pretty good. So my breast is clean like this for the most part, a couple little pieces here. What I'm gonna do is kind of try to just cut this in half the best I can. So I'm gonna take the knife, kind of hold and push down. You wanna make sure you got your hand on there. Go in from the side here. And just kind of make your way. And try and stay level with the board. That way you're going to get an even cut. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to kind of look something like this. So of course this one's a little bigger than this, but you know, not every piece is uniform. So this is what you're going to get. So we got two here, and I'll do this other one. So like this little connective piece here that you see on the chicken, you're going to want to get rid of that. And that's pretty easy to do. You can kind of just take your knife even and scrape gently down the meat, and it'll kind of push all the nasty bits away. And just cut that off there. Okay, discard that. And also too in the middle, sometimes there'll be what they call the rib meat, and there's a little piece of cartilage that runs up there and you don't want to chew on that. So if you see that piece, make sure to cut that out. But these look pretty good. These were pretty clean, thankfully. So what I'll do here again, place the breast. I guess you could call it the shiny side up. Your knife here, and make your way down. Relatively uniform pieces. And that is how you clean the chicken. Now we are going to pound it out. All right, so now we have our chicken cleaned, and make sure to wash your hands after you clean the chicken. I think that's kind of something everybody knows, but just always keep that in the back of your mind. You want to keep your work surfaces clean. So what I'm going to show you now is how to pound this out. So what I'm going to do, and this is going in the same lines as keeping clean and keeping sanitary, I just take a simple piece of saran wrap, place it down on my table, and you want to make sure you have a good hard surface, nothing that's going to crack or anything. So one piece down, and then we're going to lay our chicken just evenly on here. If you can, the pieces that have the shinier side, put that face up. It makes it a little easier to pound out. Okay. All right, chicken like that. All right, then we're going to get one more piece of saran. This is just gonna go directly on top like this, okay? And you might have to move it around a little bit. You wanna leave yourself a couple inches outside of the chicken because the chicken is gonna expand a bit. So it's pretty simple, have it down like this. And then what you're gonna wanna use, these are pretty accessible at any store. I got this at Meijer. These are great to have. You can use these also for breaking up graham crackers or something if you're making a crust. This is just a meat mallet, as that's what I've always called them. That's what we called them in the kitchens I worked in. So this is a meat mallet, and you want to use, it usually has a smooth side and a spiky side, I guess. Use the smooth side. And you don't want to beat this to death. What we're trying to do here is tenderize the meat a little bit. And you'll feel it as you're pounding it. You can you'll feel inside the breast where there's kind of like a little line that goes down the middle, and you'll feel it kind of pop underneath your mallet. This technique is good because, like I said, it tenderizes the meat, and also it's gonna make the chicken more uniform, and it's gonna cook faster because it's gonna be thinner. Just start here, and usually I like to start in the fattest piece, and just kind of gently pound here. And if you're not getting anywhere, you might have to go a little bit harder. And then you'll kind of get a feel for it. And just work your way around. You don't want to stay in one spot long. And again, like I said, this is a great technique to use with veal or pork. The origin of this dish is actually veal Milanese. But most people just use chicken because it's more accessible. So that's about what we're going for, kind of like this. It's not the prettiest looking thing, but I can feel that they're all pretty much the same consistency all the way through. So these are good to go. So now we will remove the top layer. And here's a good time also, which is very important, is to season your food. So we're gonna do that in steps, and this is our first step. So here you would have your salt and pepper. I like to keep mine kind of combined together. Kosher salt, freshly cracked black pepper. Just gonna do a little sprinkle on each side. Okay, then we're gonna flip them over. And do the other side. And if you're watching your sodium or something, you don't have to salt at this step, but it just really just kind of helps permeate the meat and just makes it very flavorful. So about like that. All right, so now we're gonna get ready to dredge our chicken. All right, so now we have our chicken cleaned, pounded out, and we seasoned it with a little bit of kosher salt and fresh cracked pepper. So now next we're gonna do what's called a dredge. And you'll see this a lot in many dishes and recipes and in restaurants and all over the culinary world. Pretty standard here. We have a flour mix, we have eggs, and breadcrumbs. This is something too that you can do gluten-free. If you wanted to substitute and use rice flour or like an almond flour, that works as well. Panko is good to go because this is made from rice. So if you need to do it gluten-free, that's a way you can go about it. But today we're just gonna go kind of old school and just do it this way. So in the flour, you can get creative with this. I'm keeping it pretty simple. I do season the flour, a little bit of salt and pepper. Again, be mindful of how much salt you already put on your chicken. Keep that in mind when you're putting it in your flour. And we're using Parmesan cheese too, so that has a lot of salt in it. I just use all-purpose flour, a little bit of salt, fresh cracked pepper, a little pinch of dried Italian seasoning, and granulated garlic. And then over here we just have eggs, and I just whisk those really good. You want to make sure they're whisked up, kind of like you're getting ready to make scrambled eggs. And this is going to be a binder in this little equation we have here. Then over here we have our breadcrumbs. I like to use a combination of just kind of original Italian, and then I like to throw in a little panko because I think panko gives a nice crunch. But again, you can kind of experiment and do whatever else you'd like with it. And also to this breadcrumb mixture, excuse me, we're gonna add grated Parmesan cheese. And this is a key component to this dish because it's really gonna give us a nice color on our chicken when we fry it. Right. And you can buy, if you want, you could buy like a pre-shredded or a pre-grated Parmesan. But if you're doing all this and you're going, you know, you've already got it out, you might as well do it this way. It really makes a difference. We're just gonna add this right to the mixture here. Chunk. And I believe I put a 1/4 cup on the recipe. You can kind of eyeball it. You don't want too much though, but if you don't want a lot, then you can just put a little accent on there. I like a lot, so I'm just gonna beef it up a little bit, but we'll keep it like that. Okay, now we're gonna give this a good stir. Just make sure it's all incorporated. Okay, now we start to dredge. So step one is gonna be the flour, okay? Grab your chicken, place it in the flour, gently press it down You want to kind of feel the flour adhering to it. Pick it up, give it a little shake, lay it back down towards you. And again, kind of press, get it in the cracks there. And you don't want too much, and you want to make sure you're always shaking the excess off. So that's good. Now we're going to add it here to the egg. And you can kind of drop it and let it sit. And pick it up again. Same as the flour on the other side. Make sure it gets evenly coated. And if you want to use gloves for this, that's totally understandable, but obviously wash your hands when you're done. From the egg into the breadcrumb, like that. And we're going to press this down again. Make sure all those breadcrumbs are sticking to it. So we got a nice crust on that chicken. Okay. Sometimes I like to pick it up from like that on the out and just pat it down. Okay, we're going to do it one more time. Just make sure it's all coated good.
Reid, what if they don't have the trays at home? What would you?
I usually at home, I use just a plate or like a, if you have like a bowl even, or a salad bowl's nice. But yeah, if you don't have that, Tupperware I've used a lot. Shallow Tupperware is good.
Like
and it's
plate?
Yep, a pie plate. Yep, pie plate's good. Yeah. Okay, so as you can see, we have all the chicken breaded up, ready to get fried. So I just put it here on a sheet tray, or you can use a plate or whatever you have laying around. We're just gonna set this in the fridge for a little bit, let it kind of chill while we make the vinaigrette. So this is a good thing to learn and an easy thing to follow, because vinaigrettes are really simple to make. It's very versatile. You can make them 100 different ways, thousands of different ways. Number one rule for a vinaigrette, or the rule that most people follow, is 3 parts oil to 1 part acid. And so the acid can either be like a vinegar or a lemon juice or a lime juice. In this instance, we're gonna use lemon and just fresh lemon juice, because the lemon just kind of permeates and goes through the whole dish. So we'll have it on top of the chicken and in the vinaigrette. First things first, I like to use fresh lemons. If you want to cheat and buy the other kind of lemon juice, go ahead. It's not gonna be quite as bright and not quite as punchy. So again, if you have the time, I would just get fresh lemons. So I just cut them in half down the middle. I've got one of these great little juicers here. And again, I'm not gonna measure perfectly today. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it. But if, as a reference point, always kind of think 3 to 1, 3 to 1, 3 to 1. You don't wanna have too much of one thing. Some people do like, you know, their vinaigrette's a little more tangy or a little less tangy. So just as you're making it, taste it, check it. I like mine pretty lemony. We're gonna go with that here. Okay. Okay. Next to the vinaigrette, we're gonna add Dijon mustard. This is one of the key components to the dish, because this will help the acid, so in this case the lemon juice, adhere with the olive oil. So they call that an emulsifier. So this is gonna help our vinaigrette mix all together and not be separated. You can also use a different kind of mustard if you don't like Grey Poupon. I like stone ground mustards. That way too, you're getting a little bit of texture in the vinaigrette with the seeds from the mustard. But this is a pretty classic here, just with the Grey Poupon or a good French Dijon. So I usually go, judging by my lemon juice, here. Okay. And this stuff's pretty strong too, so we're dealing with a lot of really strong flavors. So, you know, just kind of, I don't want to say use caution, but just make sure you're tasting things as you go. And like I said, sometimes this mustard's a little too strong, so tone it back. Or you can also add a little bit of honey if you wanted to make this sweeter instead of adding sugar. A lot of people add honey to vinaigrettes to give it that little sweet essence. Today we're not doing honey because we're just kind of making a real simple lemon one here. So got my Dijon, and now I'm going to add to that just a little pinch of salt and pepper. And I like to add my salt and pepper, or if I'm putting sugar in it, when I add my acid together here, because it'll help it break down more and dissolve. That way you're not getting little gritty pieces of salt or sugar in your dressings. Okay, so we're gonna get this together here. Okay, that's our lemon juice and mustard together. We're gonna put in a clove of fresh garlic. Some people like to put shallots or onions in their vinaigrettes. I really like shallots in mine, but again, today, just to keep it simple, we're just gonna use the garlic. And again, this is more or less an Italian dish, so this garlic is gonna pair really well with everything else we're having today. I like these little garlic presses. If you have the means, get one. If not, go ahead and chop it, but this gets it real small because we don't want big chunks of garlic in our vinaigrette. Okay, so again, we have our garlic in here now. We're just gonna mix it together. You can make these in a blender or a food processor on a slow setting. Just make sure it's not gonna fly everywhere. But I kind of like to do it old school style with a whisk. So again, we do the base first, which is the acid, the mustard, the garlic, and the seasonings. And this is also the point where if you wanted to add a kind of herb to it, or maybe some kind of chipotle paste or anything like that, it would go here. So once you have it like this, slowly add your oil. And for vinaigrettes, use an oil that you like. I wouldn't recommend using like a vegetable oil. You can get really good olive oils now for not that expensive. So this is looking pretty good, going with my 3-to-1 here. And you can kind of see it and feel it kind of coming together. Okay. We'll give it a taste here. It's good. Lots of lemon, garlic's there. It's not too acidic. So I'm gonna keep that the way it is. But again, here could be the time where you change the seasonings. All right, and that is a lemon vinaigrette. Cool. Yeah, yeah. All right, so now we have our vinaigrette done. I set that aside and we'll dress our salad here shortly. But now we're gonna get to the fun part, which is frying the chicken. Now, obviously, be really careful here. We are dealing with super hot oil, but this is very easy to do. It's not hard. It's nothing to be intimidated about. If you have a thermometer at home, you could use that. You ideally want to get the temperature about 350. You don't want it to be too cold because then the chicken will absorb the fat before it cooks. And you don't want it too hot because obviously it'll burn before it's cooked all the way through. But a good technique that chefs use, I've seen used numerous times, I still use it to this day. Take a little pinch of flour, or in this instance, I reserved some of the flour we had dredged our chicken in, and I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit on the oil. And when that flour hits the oil, and you see it kind of start to foam up and stuff like that, you'll know when your oil is ready. Keep in mind too, when you add your chicken, it is gonna decrease the temperature of the oil. So you want your oil pretty hot when you add the chicken right in there. So I've had my oil warming up for about a minute or two. I'm gonna sprinkle a little flour in there. Not quite. I like to usually warm it up to in like medium heat. You don't want to crank it up too high. You want to kind of let it gradually warm up here. So again, I would check the flour after about 2 minutes. I recommend using like a non-stick pan like this, or if you have something like stainless steel. I wouldn't recommend doing this in like a soup pot or a saucepan because it's gonna splash and it's just not very safe. So I'm gonna check it again. All right, that's looking good there. All right, so that's good to go. Chicken's ready. So I have my chicken here. Very important thing to do here when you lay the chicken down, make sure you're laying it away from yourself. You don't want that hot oil to splash on you. So grab by the end here. Chicken goes in, down like that, okay? I usually give it a real gentle little stir just to make sure it's not sticking on the bottom, okay? And we're gonna add one more. Okay. All right, and these usually take about 3 to 4 minutes on each side. So we're gonna let them cook here for a minute, and then we'll give them a flip.
So good.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Great idea.
All right, that's the color we're going for here. Nice golden. And again, you kind of want to, don't play with it too much, but you want to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom of the pan. And we don't want the chicken completely submerged in oil either, so this looks pretty good like this. If your chicken is getting too dark, or you're getting afraid that it's overcooked, or it's getting too burnt, excuse me, you can finish it in the oven always. So just turn your oven up to 350 and put your chicken in there till the temperature reads 165. It's also not a bad idea to, like I said, keep them moving around the pan. Certain parts of the pan will get hotter than others, so just keep an eye on it. You don't want to walk away for too long. Excess oil to drip off there too. Okay, so now here for the finishing part. What we're gonna do here now is we're gonna toss our arugula with this delicious vinaigrette we made. You don't have to use arugula. If you don't know what arugula is, it's just another kind of green. It does have a bit of a peppery flavor, pretty nutty. I really like it. It's a little bit different, it's good for you. But if you don't like it, you could always substitute spinach, or again, like I said, sometimes people like to pair this with rice or pasta or something like that. But traditionally, it's usually served with a little green salad on top. So our arugula here, excuse me. And I'm gonna shave just a little bit of Parmesan in there. And I do this with a vegetable peeler, gives you these nice curls. And again, we're using the same flavor, but in a different application. So in the chicken, we have the grated Parmesan, and on the salad, we're gonna do the curls. So the flavor's kind of doubling itself, but it'll play tricks on your mind. Okay, so we got a little Parmesan on there. And you don't need too much dressing. And if you end up having leftovers, this stuff is good for a couple of days if you're using fresh lemon juice. It's really good tossed on vegetables. It's a great marinade. So just make sure it's nice and mixed again before you toss it. And just gently over the top. Okay. That's probably pretty good. Okay, so we got our salad nice and tossed here. And what I like to do with this now, we have our delicious chicken on our plate. And what we're gonna do is just put a nice pile of this delicious salad right on top here. Okay. Then we're gonna add a couple more Parmesan curls to it. And then we're gonna finish the dish with some fresh lemon. Okay, so we got the fresh lemon juice. Now we're just gonna finish it, garnish with a nice piece of fresh lemon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the chicken Milanese. I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoy your dinner.